Recording as usual for note taking. Nilam, can you hear us? I think Nilam is not hearing us, so she's switched off. She might try to rejoin again. All right, let's make sure Michael is with us as well. Yeah, Zoom has made a lot of upgrades, updates constantly, and it normally works, but sometimes with the interpretation, it stops working, and we don't understand why. But we're glad it is now working. In the meantime, how are you all doing? It's been since December, the last time we met. Please. Thank you, Elvis. That's wonderful. It's wonderful to have you here. Bruce, do you want to come in? We're still waiting for, I think Nilam is trying to rejoin and Michael is still stuck, I think. Great to hear. Great to hear. And you look very well, Bruce. Rested and well. Michael, do you want to tell us how you've been? We're just waiting for Nilam, who has had to rejoin because she couldn't hear us.
Hello, hello. Yes, of course, I want to share with you how I'm doing. Well, I hope you're doing great. And over here, after 2 months of intense heat, we're finally getting some rain. Today it's raining, and that's very nice because we were um, getting very hot with the high temperatures. And I'm very happy because of some news at a Colombia level. We were selected as COP60, COP16, one of the great most important conferences in Cali, the city where I live, was selected to carry out the event. So in October, Cali will be the center to welcome thousands of delegates of UN and people and organizations from all over the world on environmental topics. That is very important for a department that is biodiverse, one of the most biodiverse in the world. And we have uh, we have an area with a lot of animals that makes me happy. And a personal level, I can tell you that I am very like um, 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 agitated because I have a lot of work in planning with the board of directors and the equipment, uh, how we're gonna get the fundings and resources to carry out all the actions that we have ahead of us. And starting out also the um, the 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 laws of this concrete term. We have already passed the first uh, um, process of law, and we're just looking forward for this project to be and the for care to be a reality. So tomorrow I'm traveling to Bogota to witness the table of experts and talk about what's coming next. So that have has me excited, but there is a lot going on and healthy. As a regarding my health, I'm doing great and growing at a personal level in a collective way as well. And I'm very happy to see you all today.
Wonderful. And Michael, Colombia is very much in the global vision at the moment, because you may know also that I think it's in November, there's going to be the global interministerial meeting on violence against children that's taking place in Colombia. I don't know which city, and that's something that maybe we can talk about, because we are really keen, and I'm sure you'll be very keen to be looking at violence in the context of care and in the context of the experience of children, young people, and adults, both in care, but also as a driver of separation and a factor in. So it's going to be a big high-level meeting, which is global, but which is taking place in Colombia, which is hosted by Colombia. So that's also at from the kind of international meeting, it's one of the big meetings that's going to take place this year. And it's an exciting potential advocacy opportunity for the council and for anyone who
I think it's going to be held in Medellin. What is the name again of this meeting again,
It's
please?
an interministerial meeting on violence against children. So it's at the minister level, the ministers of all major countries. I don't know whether all will be there. I'll find out. I'll share that with you, and we can talk more about. But it is,
That's interesting.
and unfortunately, in the history, this is also follow-up to the work at the global level on the Sustainable Development Goals. And unfortunately, care and the situation of children and young people in care has not been on the agenda. So there's quite a bit of work happening by international organizations to see whether we can actually bring the topic of violence and children's care and the alternative care system on the agenda. So definitely something worth talking about.
Great. I'm right here reading. It's very important to collaborate in those meetings as well.
Definitely. And Grace, do you want to come in?
Sure. Yes, hi all. Good to see you again. Since the last time we met in December. I'm excited. I see Margot, if you can be able to assist Neelam. She says she's in
I'm
the
not
waiting.
seeing her, so I don't think I'm not seeing the waiting room. I don't know why I'm not seeing the waiting room.
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Are you seeing her?
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, great.
Yes, but you know what? I didn't see it either, which is very weird. But thank you, Grace.
Yeah, Zoom is being a bit funny today, so hopefully we'll be able to continue. Sorry, to you,
Thank you
Grace.
so much.
Yeah, so I'm excited for sure to be a part of this also. And since the last meeting, I know, especially for the East Africa representatives, as Ruth just said, we were not sure who'll be able to continue in this new phase. But I'm excited that we are a part of it, and we'll talk into it also in the meeting. So really excited to see you all. And yes, I'm looking forward to a productive year. Thank you. Over to...
So let me share the slides, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And Neelam, sorry, over to Neelam. Sorry, Grace.
Sure.
Welcome, Neelam, to have you here. Okay, hopefully you can see the slide and it's the right one.
Yes.
Can I put this into presentation mode? No, apparently no. I'm not sure why. Slideshow. Oh, I'm not sure that's what I needed to do. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Grace, over to you.
Thank you, Florence. So once again, welcome everybody and congratulations to be a part of this next phase. So we'll get started with our meeting. I had earlier shared the agenda and we have done part of the first agenda, the welcoming and everything. So allow me to take us through the whole process since December to now and how we ended up with the 5 members present here. So to some extent, I was involved in now leading in the process after the December meeting, whereby we had agreed that in the next phase, we need to have new members, to recruit new members, and also to decide who will be remaining. So I kind of took up the role to follow up on that. And together with Florence, to some extent, we were able to follow up, especially with different regions where it wasn't so clear. So I was able to write to majority of us. For India, we had Aditya and Neelam, and for both of them, they were to agree. So they responded, and Neelam was proposed to have continued. For Colombia, Michael, it was certain that you will be continuing. For Central Africa, I had to reach out to Elvis, and yeah, he did express interest. Apparently, Deborah and Nabs are, because of the criteria in the TOR, they will no longer qualify. So we had Elvis to represent them. And then we also had Southern Africa, where Gift was from. I reached out to Gift, but then apparently he said he's no longer interested to continue in the council. And then we had East Africa, where we had the majority of us. So for East Africa, it was a bit, of a challenge, as Ruth had mentioned. And maybe probably some of you will be asking, why do we have Grace and Ruth from the same country present here, continuing in the CLC? Yet it is very clear in the TOR that we should have one representative from one country. So it was really a tough decision for East Africa. And as Ruth mentioned, we had some voting that was done. So for my end, the majority voted for me, but for us to decide the second person to represent East Africa, we had opted it to be from Uganda or Rwanda, but apparently we could not be able to settle on either of the country. And so for both countries, Mai and Eric suggested that Ruth from Kenya to represent them through ACNA. So that's how we ended up having two representatives from Kenya to represent East Africa. So that is the whole process. And I once again want to congratulate all of us for being part of this phase to continue serving in the CLC in the next 1 year. Yeah, so that is it. I don't know if we have any feedback or, about the whole process and how we were able to settle on this.
No comment, but just to say how grateful we are that all the members participated in that process, and it's been successfully finalized. So thank you for that on my part.
You're welcome. So also, for the interest of time, guys, I hope maybe we get into the other items of the agenda. Margot, if you could help us go to the next slide so that we get started. Yes. So this is the other item on the agenda, whereby we had already worked on the TOR as of last meeting in December. And recently we have received some few comments, and members had been invited to actually give suggestions. So in this, we wanted the 5 of us to approve and give a go-ahead of the comments in the TOR for us to actually approve the TOR, that it is what will be guiding us. So at this point, maybe I'd like to ask Florence, for you have been involved mostly in the editing and following the track changes. Maybe you can speak into the TOR finalization and then invite members to give their inputs where needs be.
Oops, sorry, I can. I'm going to stop sharing this. This is the link to the TOR, and I'll share the TOR. Marco, can you let Michael in? I think Michael's been kicked out today. Zoom is not being friendly. Margot? I'm actually not seeing the waiting room, which is very bizarre. Ah, okay, great. So welcome back, Michael. So let me share with you my screen with the, as Grace, the final draft of the terms of reference, so that it can be approved. Bear with me. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So this is the final draft. Of course, you know it well. We've been working on it pretty much for the whole of last year, and now we're almost there, as Grace say. Just to,
will you increase the font?
yes, of course. Let me see. She says yes, of course, but yes, of course, but no. Hang on. And full screen. That doesn't help. View. Is that a bit better? Does that work better? Is it still too small?
It doesn't look like it. There we go.
Yeah, better.
Okay. So there are only, as Grace says, there's only a couple of revisions that we wanted to flag so that you can adopt it knowing fully. NABs, and I'm going through it quickly because we know it almost by heart by now. And the only changes that we wanted to flag are, see, it's almost all agreed. So NABs proposed in the final review, he proposed a couple of paragraphs, which is new language, but which seems along the line of what was discussed by the members. But I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of these. First one is this one. It's under general membership, and it's added this additional paragraph around strong collaboration. The members are to be in strong collaboration with a national, country, and regional care leaders network connecting to the local government and child welfare agencies in their region. So emphasizing the need for members of the council, including new members, are going to be recruited to have these strong links and collaboration at the national and regional level. So this is one of the change. Any comments on this? Any disagreement with this? We're going to really move to the adoption. So I just want to make sure that you're able to see it. Michael, I apologize because it's only in English at this stage, but we will translate the whole TOR into Spanish. But it's just that we needed to have a final TOR. Any comments with this one? I can't see anyone, so you do need to speak to let me know.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm in agreement, Florence.
The second paragraph, which is new, added by NABS, is this one. It's under the role and function of the advisory group. And he added assist the coordinators in fundraising and administering and distributing resources, and in providing accountability to the members of the council and the donors. It's not, strictly speaking, a new paragraph. It was already included. This is just re-emphasizing that as part of the advisory group. It's part of the, but it was already discussed. So doesn't seem to me to be too controversial, but just wanted to make sure that you'd seen it. Are we all okay with that addition?
Yeah.
Okay, not hearing anyone. Okay, great. And then, so this is an addition, and I discussed with Grace. I realized that this is an addition that I proposed because I realized that we hadn't included into the terms of reference the very process that we just went through, which recognize what we call sometimes in English the grandfathering. So it explains why some members continued on the council for 1 year, were allowed to continue and didn't have to be recruited again, which is important for new members to come in and in the future for them to know that there was a process. So that's quite a common process. It's often called in English grandfathering. What it means is that it explains that some members that were into this body in its previous phase have been allowed to continue. And as was discussed and agreed in Nairobi, the idea is that the current members, so U5 that are continuing, that served in the USAID Care Leaders Council, that agreed to remain on the council are going to be continuing for 1 additional year, and that your membership then ends. And that was part of the discussion as well around allowing recruitment of new members. So part of the council is going to be recruited every year, so that there is a rotating system where you have some new members and some experienced members on the council sitting at the same time. So we needed to kind of clarify this into the terms of reference, because we hadn't mentioned this anywhere. So just wanted to check with you whether that reflects your understanding, whether you're okay with that, or whether you have questions or concern. Michael, please, I think you've got your hand up.
Yes, I agree. Because it does justice to the work that we are doing, indeed. And that will give us a sustainable process that we have having since 2020. So we started working as advisors of. So I think that this will allow us to have a very solid process. And within that time frame, to become leaders, to search for leaders also that want to give this continuity process. So I think it's a good plus. I am in favor of it.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else?
Well, Florence, from my end, it's as I said that, yeah, I think having it in writing is good. For us, maybe who had forgotten what we had discussed in the face-to-face meeting, to at least know that for the 5 of us who are continuing, we'll be just serving for 1 year, and then guiding the new members who will be joining is to have the whole vision of the council, and then as we leave, they'll be able to carry it on forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. But you know, I'm not seeing the chat, so oops, maybe I'm seeing the chat.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts, concern? Neelam, thank you. Okay, I'm not hearing anything else, so this is agreed. This was just a comment which has been resolved, and we're going to discuss further about roles and responsibilities and procedures. So I think this is it, guys. Dare I say? Oops, Ruth.
Thanks, Florence. Back to the comment where you just quickly rushed and said we'll discuss that further.
Yes.
When I read that, I asked myself, how are we going to, have we defined the process of expulsion?
Yeah.
So if the council members, they have the power to do that, then how do we do that? How will this be executed?
Yeah, sorry. And by the way, yes, thank you actually for pointing out, because I went through because I thought it was another clause. I didn't realize about this one. So it's a good question. This is the clause that that allows members of the council to determine that a member has been in breach either of the policies or their roles and responsibilities, and need to be initially. In the proposal that NABS had, there was 2 different proposals. One, which is that the coordinates team would be able to expel a member, And then that there was also an additional one that said that the council members as a whole could also expel a number. And then there was some comments, I think Grace commented on it, and said that it should really not be the coordinates team deciding on its own, but it should be the members. So in this clause, and so we reflected that. So now it's only the members. It says by 2/3 majority vote. And you're right, what are the criteria? So that is precisely what this council is going to need to do as part of its first phase, which is to develop in more details the kind of principles and values, you know, and the basis on which members are going to operate, and what are the things that are expected in terms of their involvement beyond what's in this terms of reference already. So, for example, things which I think we discuss around non-discrimination, inclusion, respect, accountability, and stuff like that. So there is a, as you know, there is a clause that at the moment is quite generic on that, which is here, which is based on the discussion on I mean, it's all written, it's all proposed by you. But it says the council will develop, adopt, and implement policies to ensure the council operates in these ways. So this is one of that reason I jumped and said this is one of the things going to be discussed, because it's definitely one of the things that this council is going to need to develop as one of its first step. Some policies in terms of the values and ways of working of the council. Does that make sense, Ruth?
Yes, it does completely.
So you're right that you don't have that yet. You do have, of course, within that some of the roles and responsibilities of members. So that's already obviously some of the criteria. But the other aspects of behavior and commitment and is definitely part of what needs to be determined by this council. Anyone else has comments on this? And thank you for pointing out, Ruth. I forgot that this was what this clause was. Anyone else on this? Okay. Grace, over to you. Do you think to get this terms of reference adopted?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Florence, for taking us through that. So I don't know how to go about this to ensure that members have adopted the TOR, which you all have access to. Do we raise our hands? I don't know how to go about that, but are you all in agreement that this is what we will be working with in this new phase? Are you all in agreement to adopt it? Members of the council?
I agree.
Thank you,
I'm
Michael.
thinking a lot
Mhm.
on the role that we're going to fulfill. I'm thinking of a framework, like a conference of a country where you have various instances in fulfill a role, senators, congressmen, women that are re-elected every 4 years if they're doing a good job, and they're giving continuity to all the projects that we are bringing before them. So I'm thinking about the role that we're playing as a council, as founders of this initiative of the terms of reference, because we're going to play an important role, let's say, and to make respect, validate all these terms of references with the new members that will be coming. So we have as such the knowledge of all this structure because we collaborate in building it. But the new members have to make double work of adjusting and understanding how this council works. So I believe that we have to think thoroughly how this transition will be in order to be effective. On one side, what Flores proposed is very positive because of that. But also, we must strengthen the alumni group that is still there because that's going to be key to give the sustainability to this council to be in constant growth, monitoring and evaluation of all the actions that we will be carrying out. How and the roles that each one will play. I'm trying to think about that. I'm thinking about that, and I think it's some following step that we must think about. Because the council depends on that to be successful. That is the following step.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for your feedback. And I also see in terms, if someone has questions about review, in the TOR, it's still clear that there's also the annual review of the TOR and the bylaws. So it's clearly stated there. Any other feedback?
Grace, I am okay with yes, I agree to working with this. And the annual review makes sense. So with that provision, then it's comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Elvis, Nilam.
On my part, I think the TR we have there, it's good, and the points, I think they will drive us throughout the next phase. So I'm quite comfortable with that.
Okay. Nilam?
I agree with that, Grace, and I feel that you have incorporated everything that is important. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you, guys. So we have our TOR to guide us through this whole year. Thank you on that. Congrats.
Congratulations. If I may say
Yes.
congratulations, because I agree with Michael. This was not an easy process, but this is your TOR, just to emphasize the difference and the switch from, as Michael said, you were an advisory body to USAID, the terms of reference were drafted by USAID, to now you have developed your own TORs, your own terms of reference as an independent body. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Congrats to us. Okay, so that is done. Now we can proceed to our next agenda. Florence, if you can share the screen.
Let me go back to I have lost
But as she's
it.
trying to share, probably now that we have adopted the TOR, and the next step most likely is for us to think through the recruitment process of new members. So Florence, as you're sharing the screen also, you could share the link of the members. I don't know if I can also get it from my end.
Yes, bear with me.
For us to be able to see where we have, we need to recruit new members, and then we as members can decide on how to go about it.
Bear with me. I seem to have lost my screen. Are you seeing the the agenda?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So you wanted us to put together only to share the membership document?
Yes, I've actually shared it on chat.
Great.
But people can also open it up for us to be able to see and identify the regions where we need to recruit new members, and probably maybe because of time we can go to the next step of us brainstorming on how do we want to do the recruitment. What do you think about it? the link I just shared, if you open it, it has the membership and where we need to add new members. So at this juncture, it's for us also to think through how do we go about getting new members, the whole process. Yeah.
All
Yes.
right, so I'm able to see it. Sorry, it's taken a while.
Yeah.
So yes, so you can see that there is one member from Southern Asia that needs to be recruited, and this highlights as well also the alumni. There's one member of Southern Asia, two members of Southeastern Asia that need to be recruited, one member from Latin America and the Caribbean, no members for Eastern Africa because we've got two members, two members of Southern Africa, one member for Western and Central Africa, two members for Europe and Central Asia, one member for Middle East and North Africa, and then one member that could come to any region who will particularly bring in the care experience of a person with disability or potentially LGBTQI. So to make sure that, yeah, that's it. So if I remember, well, that's 11 members, yeah, that we have to recruit.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a task of adding 11 new members from the different regions, so that we can have a complete council of 16 members, adding on to what we have. So I'd like us to think through now the brainstorming of how do we go about this step. And Florence, you had a place where we can brainstorm from?
We did. I'm going to try this and hopefully this is going to work. Because today nothing works, but it's also a new system for us. We're using the Zoom whiteboard. So this is just to get you started to be thinking of what are some of the tasks that are needed in order to get to the recruitment process. And hopefully you should be able to highlight these and you should be able to write on it. Oh. And you can create more little post-its ongoing by the left side. So you see what I'm doing, up. You can add some more post-its and write. So it just is a board for you to brainstorm on some of the steps to recruit those 11 new members. So we just started with an obvious one, which is you're going to need to draft a call for applicants that's going to go according to the terms of reference. It's going to be an open process where you will be able to, you will advertise that this is an opportunity that's available. So one of the first steps is drafting this call. But there may be other steps as well. And you'll see we kind of gave a few pages of some of these potential steps. So this is just for you to think through. Over to you, Grace.
I'm trying to figure out how do we add into it.
Are you able to, if you highlight the little post-it, are you able to write? So you can create a sticky notes by going to the left side. And then if you go to the sticky,
I'm trying to write, but I cannot.
It's not letting you write. Oh, God. It did work in the test we tried, but apparently not. Try with a pen. Can you do the pen? Where's the pen? Try with the...
Florence, can you share this link again, please, in the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Marco, can you do this? Let's see whether, hang on, let's see whether I can. I'm seeing Elvis, I'm seeing
I still can't figure out how to write on it.
let's
Yeah,
see.
me too.
Yeah, and I don't have access to the link.
Just on the screen.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, that's not working for
That's
me
not
as well.
working.
If that's the way. Yeah.
Mm.
Ah, the beauty of technology. Let me see whether I can. Sorry, let me stop sharing. Oh, I can't stop sharing. Margot, can you try to put in the, because I don't think I can stop sharing. There is a link access. Let's see whether this works. I don't know whether this works. Morning meeting. Try this. I don't know if it's going to work, but try it. Is anyone able to write on it?
On my
No.
end, no.
No. Well, that defeats the purpose. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. We can just brainstorm. That was just to try to get us. Unfortunately, the system we normally use, which is Jamboard, Google Jamboard, they've which we think is very simple, they discontinued it. It no longer exists. And you're not, are you able to create a, you're able to create a post-it, but you're not able to write on it, is that it?
I can create a post-it as well.
Can't create, okay. So basically you don't have access to it.
Yeah, I can't do anything either.
And have you tried to through the link that I shared in the chat?
I think with a link, you tried that it's saying you request access.
Can you request access?
I've sent.
If not, in order not to lose time, I would just say let's brainstorm and then we can take notes. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a good suggestion.
Do you want to try the link just before we do that? Just before we give up, which I'm ready to do. Because I see at the back that at least some of you are already in. But it doesn't seem to allow you to.
Or maybe we can just get started with her brainstorming.
I think we can, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Shall I
So
stop
any
sharing?
ideas?
Should I stop sharing? Oh.
Well,
Actually, I'm not sharing. This is so bizarre. This is the whiteboards. Close the whiteboard. I'm going to close the whiteboard. Should I do that? So the things we have on the whiteboard, we just put some things for you to start thinking about, which you'll know, which is, of course, you need to draft a call for applications. So let people know, and there needs to be a timeline. There needs to be some decision about the information in there. Another thing is, once you've got the call, of course, it needs to be disseminated widely, so that people, particularly in the region that are being targeted, are able to apply, know about it. And then put in consultation with national and regional networks. I remember well in the terms of reference, it also says that well, first of all, it's important that the candidates have links to those networks. And secondly, that they could be encouraged to apply by the, so networks can nominate or encourage applicants to apply. It doesn't mean that they still have to go through the recruitment, but it's really important that the national and regional networks are aware of the opportunity. Another thing that's needed to move forward on this is the establishment of a plan for the recruitment. So procedures for a shortlist, interviews, selection process, including timeline. So determining how long do we give, what are the what is the, generally for recruitment, open recruitment, there's an agreed form with the criteria, an interview panel, etc., right? So that it's clear how the process is going to be. Another thing that we put in there to think about, which is that, of course, this is also going to be key to have the members' agreement. We need a new members' agreement with the terms, so that once members are recruited, and you yourself are going to be signing the new members' agreement based on the current TOR, because the previous members' agreement were really based on the USAID terms of reference. So these are just some thoughts, but there's a lot more that's needed to do that. So over to you guys.
thank you, Florence, on that. So, guys, we need to think through the next step of recruiting new members and how do we want to go about it, as Florence has just given us some of the steps. So it's for us to figure it out. And then, yeah, we see how we can go about it. Any ideas, feedback?
Grace, I can't hear you well. Your voice is in and out. I don't know if it's just me or...
So sorry about that.
I could hear her very well, Nilam, so it might be, unless others have an issue, it might be your connection.
I could hear her very well too.
Okay. So Nilam, I was just asking for feedback from us to think through the next step of recruitment, and Florence has given us some of the, guiding steps. So it's for us to think through now, how do we go about it in terms of drafting a call? How do we go about it? Do we have ideas on that, suggestions? So that is what I'm asking from us.
Well, I want to say something. The first thing that we should do is to establish a communication strategy to let them know what the council is about. What are we going to offer to those new members so that they can be encouraged? Why they want to be part of that council? It is important for them to know, to have that information clear. We have to be very careful on the language that we are going to use when disseminating this information. Also, we need to identify the different needs that we have within the council so that those new members will strengthen those needs. That will be like a second thing to think about. Then we also need to develop a form with key questions that will allow us as a council to identify what's the profile of the members to be recruited that are going to be part of the council. What are the motivations that she or he will have in order to become part of this council? So this form needs to have like key questions. Then to have an interview with them that we are going to like select. Because answers to those questions will help us to do like a filter, a selection process. And then the second phase, we're going to have an interview with them so that we can listen to them from their own experiences. And I believe that after that interview, as a council, we are going to determine who is going to be selected to be part of the council. So I don't know what you think, but we can give them like a 1 month trial or 2 months. It's something that I'm just thinking of right now. So to see how they react. And after that period, we shall decide whether they're going to stay or not in the council. And one last thing, after this process and after those members have been selected, is to give them like general information on how the council works and what is going to be their role within the council. That's my idea, my input. I don't know if someone else would like to add on it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much.
I've
picked some key action points that maybe some of us ought to take it up, but I appreciate your inputs in terms of what should go into the call, like what you're supposed to put in the call. So thank you so much for your feedback here. Any other person?
I think I would want to support Michael in terms of say a starting point. I think looking at what the needs and the gaps, I think it's a great starting point, because when we send out a call out there, it's possible to have everybody and everyone applying, and sometimes we never know how to narrow down to what. So I do think like it's such a great starting point on what are the gaps, what do we need, and then we're able to build on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with Ruth and Michael that, of course, we are going to roll out the application, and that particular application can include not certain points, in fact, all of the points that we have jotted down in our document that we were just going through. And from there, we can kind of narrow down who meets our criteria, and then we can proceed further with the interview process and other stuff, like we did for ourselves when we were selected for this meeting. For this council.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Nilam. So maybe as we still continue to get feedback, Elvis, in case you have feedback, please feel free to come in. I just had a question on one of the suggestions from Michael. I don't know what members think about it, whereby if we have selected the 11 members, he had suggested that we give them a 1-month trial, to be part of the council. And from me, I'm like, we have already gone through the whole process of interviewing, and then we have already identified the 11 members. And I'm thinking giving them a month to serve and then deciding whether they should stay might take us back to the initial step, because if we find others who are not interested, might take us to the other step. So I don't know what members think about that. Any inputs on us giving new members a 1-month trial?
Yeah, since I am facing internet issues, so maybe I think I missed hearing this point from Michael. So I wouldn't say that I'm in complete disagreement, but yes, I agree with Grace, that if we are going to give them just 1 month, and then like that would take us back to the initial stage. And if we are going to like follow this process, we might not be able to commit our time and energy and learning to the wider goal of this committee. So yeah, I think we shouldn't be doing this.
That was an example, not I just expressed it as an example that has worked in other scenarios or groups, because at times the excitement just because just leads to work, but that doesn't lead to fulfill the terms of reference, and they just stay in the group because what it represents, but they don't share that much. That is why at times that works, because during that testing period we can notice if the person is really a leader, an active leader that participates and works. That's why I mentioned that. But that process of like a testing period, the way I see it, it wouldn't lead to taking us back. On the contrary, to strengthen us as a council and to realize what works and what doesn't. It's just a mechanism of evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Even in companies, they use that to select their workers. Sometimes they have like a testing period of 3 months to see if they will fulfill um, their responsibilities. I agree with Needham that we can take that or not, and then we have to decide this in a democratic level, in a democratic way. It was just an example that I was expressing.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm actually thinking about it through, it being posing to be as a risk. And thank you for raising it up. So for me, how I'd like us maybe to approach it is to think through how can we mitigate that, how can we think through, even in the initial process of trying to recruit new members, how can we ensure that we get the right people on board? So that should be in the recruitment process. We ensure that we actually get the right people. It is a risk of us getting people and then at the end they're not interested. So maybe we can think through how do we curb that. Yeah.
Grace, can I come next?
Sure.
Yes. I wondered whether I have seen this happen in other platforms. When I get that resource, I'm gonna share. But sometimes, say youth leading, I know one, they would ask you to say do something creative and innovative, something like So what are the challenges, say, care experience? If you're given an opportunity to be on a global council, what would be the most pressing needs for caregivers or care experience people in your community that you would want to solve? It becomes like more like a contest, and then they send like I don't know whether it's what it's called. Florence might know an abstract. I'm not a technical person like that, but they send something which is like it's a contest, and then you see first it allows you into their world to know whether they are very connected to the issues on the ground. Do they know the problems and do they have ideas of a solution? And the only thing they're lacking is an opportunity. And thus, given the opportunity, they would want to do X, Y, Z. So, and it's not a daunting task. You're not going to ask people to do a PowerPoint. One time I applied for a job, they asked me to do a PowerPoint with I don't know how many slides, and I really hated it. So it's not really much. You say something like 500 words in a one pager, and they send the ideas. What are the issues care experience people? What do you think are the solutions? And when they send that, one, I think what Michael was saying, we're able to know them. They are going to allow us into their own world. Do they understand much? Are they connected to the people on the ground, the problems, the solutions? And then maybe after that, now if they say they qualify to stage one, what interviewers do like stage one, then you're able to shortlist to the next stage. Just thinking, it may not be like we have all the time, because like who has the time to go through all the contests and all the written work? But probably that could be something. It might motivate them to just write something and come up with something and put forward a solution. Now, the challenge for me is, if you don't pick one, are we saying it's a bad idea? Because with lived experience, there is no good or bad. Experience is experience. So how you pick one and leave the other becomes the work that probably BCN and the rest would need to guide us on that, if this is an idea worth exploring. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Ruth, for sure. It is a great idea that we can explore. If members agree to it and we commit to actually have the time to go through that as the initial stage, and then for them to proceed to the second step of interviews. So members, any inputs?
So it's just to be clear, it's a
I like this idea of doing it at an early stage.
Okay. Yes, Florence?
No, I think that's fine. I was just clarifying, and I think that's what you're saying, and Ruth was saying that it's part of the application process, that you're asking those applicants to provide some kind of paper, some kind of vision about what they think, etc., as you've said. And then that would be the basis, that would be part of the assessment for deciding whether this person gets an interview or not.
Okay. Yeah, so that is part of some of the ideas that you have drafted, but I'm also thinking we have suggested. I'm thinking through, we have like 37 minutes remaining. So trying to think through also the list of the items we have. I don't know how we go about it. But in terms of now the call, we have some suggestions. So I don't know, do we draft that and then share with all of us to add more into it, and depending things that members will identify? But then after drafting the call, the next step, what's the next step? How do we disseminate it?
Grace, just to clarify, we've got 30 more minutes, yeah? We've got 2 hours for this meeting.
So how do we go
By disseminating, do you mean like how do we share these out?
Yes.
In the public. Maybe it's a good starting point for us to have social, say a LinkedIn page. I don't know whether it's too early or we need everyone on board for us to move next to that stage. But at the same time, I think PCN has a wide reach. So probably if we come up with something, then we can ask, Florence can confirm whether it's something, of course, they would be able to share out there. But I think they have a wide reach. We would also, for us, like say, share with networks directly, share with organizations working with care experience people. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, just share with people, CSOs in care reforms, because they know young people, and yeah, like that. So if it's too early for us to have our own socials, it's still fine. I think there's still a way to reach the wider population. Yes, Florence. Okay, I'm not the facilitator, sorry.
Just to follow up, I think, sorry, I just want to go back to, I think the point that Michael said at the start, which I think is really important, which is this question of having a communication strategy. And the first thing to have a communication strategy is you need to have a statement saying who you are externally. And you've got the term of reference, which is an internal document, which is a basis, but you probably, in fact, you will need to be able to just have a much shorter statement of who you are, and that's going to be part of what you advertise. For Michael's point, you advertise it to others. What is this council? Who are you? Why would you want to be part of it? Why is it exciting? So I think the first thing is to have that drafted, your external communication piece. And then the second thing is, yes, definitely that dissemination strategy, which I think from what you're saying, Ruth, makes total sense. Like it should be as wide as possible. So yes, through your own mechanism, and it can lead to having some kind of social LinkedIn, or you have an opportunity as well through the platform to set up your own messaging to the 900 plus organizations and so on that are there. You can do it through all kinds of things, but you need first of all your speech about who you are, and then we can also help with dissemination. I think it's really important to do that as well through your networks at national and regional level. So I think all of that is really critical. But first, you need your few paragraphs that states who you are, what does the council intends to do for external audience.
Okay, so members, that's a key task for us that will guide our recruitment process. So at this point, I'm thinking we need that urgently. I don't know who here is really good at it, to draft it, that can be able to, volunteer and say they will take up that task. Anybody?
I have an old document, and then we can use that to build a communication strategy plan, because according to the proposed, we have the terms of for instance, we have the mission, the vision, and we have how we are structured. Now the following step is how we're going to show that, and how it brings us to having networks, how we're going to build a web page or Instagram account, LinkedIn account. And I believe that those will be the first steps that we have to do before promoting the council, because today, in this false industrial revolution, 4.0, we are in between of social media, and that all the young ones will want to know, where can I find this council? So they're gonna go online to find out this, to look for this council. So first we have to position ourselves in social media. That's why we have to have a strategic communication plan to see what language are we going to send to that our target audience, that are entities, sponsors, young people's networks, government institution, etc. I believe that that is the first strategy that we must start, we have to send that draft in the group. And I don't know, Florence, she might help me to translate it into English, and then we can work it in Jamba or on Drive, because that will help us to have a step-by-step of what we want, message, how we're going to communicate it to who is our target audience, and how we're gonna get to them, and to have a timeline very specific and well explained that would lead us to carry out that first exercise. We don't have a logo yet. We
Yeah.
don't have an image. That is the first thing that we have to do. And after that, we will think about what will be the step by step, and in general terms, we have the ideas of how to do it, but first we must have this, and then we can move on to the following thing. We can start that, I believe, now.
Mhm. Thank you, Michael. And I'm tempted to task you with that, to take up the communication strategy activity, that you may lead us in that. Please feel free to tag us along in case you need any support. But I'd suggest maybe you take up the leadership on this, to ensure that the communication strategy is in place, and please call on any of us to support you in this task. Ruth, I see you had raised your hand.
Yes, I had raised my hand because I was also going to volunteer myself to support Michael
Okay.
on that.
Awesome.
Really at the
Awesome.
very early stages before he reaches out. So I'm
Thank
volunteering myself to do that.
Amazing. That one is one task that has been assigned to you. So I'm trying to also think of, Florence, you had something to say?
No, just to say, to respond to Michael, very happy to translate. If he wants to write in Spanish, we can get it translated into English for other members. And then the one thing I did want to say about the logo and all of that, I think it's really critical, but bear in mind it's part of the formation of your council, and you will be formed once you've got new members. So think of it a little bit like, whether this is actually, a task that actually would be really important once you've recruited your new members, that you create your identity, as opposed to before, because otherwise it will leave the new members coming without an opportunity to join in that. That was just a thought. That there are things you can do for communicating who you are and shaping and establishing your social media. But if you want to kind of create your identity and so on, you might want to kind of hold off until you've got new members on. That was just a thought on my part.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that feedback. So for me, I'm trying also to think in terms of the timelines, because if now the communication strategy will determine us disseminating, the information. So what are the timelines we have? And maybe also something that we haven't asked ourselves is on drafting the call itself. I don't know who among us will lead us in that, so that we know we have someone who lead us in drafting of the call with the given suggestions we've had, and then members can input on it. We know Michael will lead on the communication strategy together with Wachuka. So anyone else who wants to take up the task of, drafting the call.
Grace, are you saying taking the meeting notes or something like that? Sorry, I'm just trying to understand.
Nilam was asking for someone who would volunteer to actually draft the call for recruiting new members. It's what we were discussing, saying what should be included in that call. So I was asking for Russ to suggest someone who lead us in that, drafting of that call. Yeah.
I have a question
Mhm.
to identify the possibility of what Florence was saying. And this will benefit when a caregiver. You need a person that needs to have a communication strategy knowledge, or at least
Mhm.
basic ideas. I have some experience in in organizing groups. I am very I like to observe, but I need to ask you something, Florence. Is it possible that we can have like small amount, let's say like $100 for a person that will be with us in the design of that strategy of communication? For example, someone here in Colombia, one that has this specialization in communications, because that will help us. Because if one of us takes that role of building the communication strategy from the very beginning, it will take a lot of time. So if there is someone who already knows this, we can give them the information and they can work on it with the I wanted to ask you that, Florence, if that is possible or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sí, por supuesto.
Absolutely, Michael.
Por supuesto, Michael, sí es posible. Okay, if you authorize that, then I can talk to that person. We can like make a meeting as a team so that we can talk to him and show him the vision that we have and how do we want the communication strategy, the image, the identity building of the council, so that we can have everything, the logo, the image, how the messages should be sent, type of font of the documents, the colors that we are going to use, everything. So can we like set a date so that we can start working on that?
Mhm.
I don't know what everyone thinks.
Just to remind ourselves in terms of dates, the goal
Yes.
was to have new members by in March. The goal, if I remember well, was in fact, the goal was to start the recruitment in February, and which, we're almost there. And then to have new members, to have the application and so on in March, to have the new members coming, I think, by the end of March. So I just want to emphasize that that's a lot of stuff that needs to happen before that. So I agree completely, and Michael, that's absolutely possible. But I just want to be realistic and say, if you're going to be recruiting members in March, you need to have your call ready pretty much by the beginning of March, to give at least 3 weeks, if not 4, for people to apply. And then for this communication, this dissemination of the call. And then you still will need at least time to review the applicants and so on. So that's already getting us into April. So I just, before the members come on board. So I think there's a need for kind of practical step, including that statement about who you are. And that may require the communication person that Michael has mentioned working with you. That helps you take the terms of reference and write 2 exciting paragraphs about who you are, what you're about, and so on, because that would be good to have for that call. And then the boring bit of the call, which is to explain how do they apply, what's the time frame, and all of that. And that needs to go out. So I think just realistically, think of that timeline, because the most important thing right now is to have a full council.
Can we move the date from March to April, because we have Eastern time in March? So is it possible to move it to April? Because a lot of people like take vacation on March because of Easter. Do you think that if that is possible, Florence and the whole team, so that we can have more time to begin this process? I would need like different, I would need the paragraphs to do that. I can contribute, of course, but I need also the help of everyone. If you can send me that information so that I can start building everything that is needs, so that I can talk to that person so that he can visualize what we want. I can start it from now, but I need your help.
On the time frame, just to say, I mean, at the end of the day, the time frame is a decision for the members, but I do want to kind of emphasize what we discussed before, which is in terms of the support for this council. So I'm seeing Nilam has dropped out. So the support for this council that you have currently technically is running until the end of September, with the hope that that will continue beyond that. And you know, I think that is very likely to happen. But some of that depends on how this council starts to operate. In other words, it shows that it's added value, it shows that it's moving forward, and so on. So the more you postpone the council coming together and starting to work, the shorter the time you're going to have to demonstrate why it's important for USAID and others to support this council. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Sure.
one consideration, really, but it's an important one, because you know, this has been already quite a you know, it's been over a year of working, which has been an important year, but working in that transition. So the more you postpone, so I totally get the point about March and the holidays, but the more you kind of postpone recruiting new members and starting the work as a full council, the more you kind of lose time for being able to kind of make the case for the council to continue.
So I don't know what others feel. I saw Elvis comment. Thank you that you'll be taking up the task on drafting the call. So feel free also to reach out to us in case you need any support. And Michael will be leading with the comm strategy, as we have agreed. He might reach out to someone else. So for us, it's now to think of the timelines. As Florence said, as it is stated, we have up to September. So thinking of now the few and tight timelines that we have, I'd maybe pose these to us. How soon can we be able to draft the call? And then for Michael, maybe to reach out to an independent person to draft the comm strategy. In what timeline is that realistic? Any feedback? Any feedback on the timelines, guys? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I believe that 1 week for the drafting, is that what you're asking, Grace?
Yeah. Elvis?
I think that 1 week for the drafting will be okay.
Okay, okay. So what about the communication strategy on your end? Because when the draft is ready, it also has to rely on now who we are, the profile, for it to be sent out together. So when do you think we can have our CLC profile?
Well, we need to build that among everyone because that's the strategy. It will require the participation of everyone. So what I'm asking is to take that drafting and put it in a drive so everyone will have access to it. I can like put the structure and the draft, and everyone will need to put their input because it's not only my mission, it's everyone's mission.
Sure. And so,
Allow me to come in, Grace.
yes,
Me
please.
gustaría comentar ahora.
Yes, I am wondering, and I would be happy to be corrected. From my understanding, communication strategy usually is a very, very technical. It's not just, it's a technical that requires thorough work and a lot of work. But in this sense, I assume we need a starting point. We're not going to go into the technicalities, but I'm only saying this because I have been involved in developing a communication strategy actually recently when I was last year. But what I think is it's not 1 week's kind of thing, but from my understanding, we need a starting point. We are not going into all of the technicalities of, but if that is the case, then we need to, whatever I think Michael was talking about would be something that is easier that we can do, that we can begin with, or with the support of the other person. I mean, yeah, if we outsource the other person. And then in terms of getting everybody to feedback into it, I do think that's gonna take a long time from where I sit. It's going to take a long time. I mean, a TOR took us 3 years. I don't mean we need 6 years to do the communication strategy, but it's going to take a lot of time to have everybody input it. But it's an important part of the process. So with that, probably I would throw this question to Florence. Are we going into the technicalities of developing a comprehensive communication strategy, or we are doing something to get us started? And if that's the case, then we might need another person, or if we have that resource within ourselves, people can pair up and deliver. Thank you.
There is something important. Thank you for that. There is something important that I'm going to I will be sharing with you now. Communication strategy, yes, requires work because that strategy must be aligned with the strategic plan of the council, then the operational plan of the annual operational plan of the council, and that is something that we don't yet have. So we must have a strategic plan of the council for 1 or 2 years. That is the plan. If after we have that plan, we must have the operational plan of the period of the active membership. So what are we going to do during that year according to the strategic plan that is projected? All that plan must be attached to the communication strategic plan because the actions that we are presenting and proposing must be communicated there. That takes time. However, what I'm proposing here is matrix, strategic matrix of communication, not the whole strategy, but the matrix, because that will give us the information how we're going to have a starting point to present the council, what the council is, what it does, where it is located, what the council wants to communicate, where does it want to communicate it, what way it want to do it, and what channel is going to use to communicate that. What is the most immediate thing that we can do. It's going to take us a week, and we have with that information, that parting point of communication would lead us to have the answers to the other questions. That is what I'm proposing here. What Ruth's saying, yes, we have to work in the whole framework. That takes time, and we have to work constantly on that. That is one of the challenges that we have from here to September. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Michael. So I think I've gotten the timelines from what you're suggesting, that it is possible for us to get something started in a week's time. And Elvis will be able to lead us draft the call in a week's time. So those are the two timelines that we have in place. So the other thing, I think we can pick it up in terms of dissemination along the process. I'd ask us maybe to continue this on the WhatsApp. Seeing we have a few minutes remaining, I'd like us also to look at the other items on the agenda, but I'm glad that you have made some key steps in terms of the recruitment process of the members. Are we all in agreement? Lawrence, you could help me share the agenda.
Yes, I am looking for it. There you go. So that was the discussion on recruitment, and then you've got key next steps.
Yeah. So the next key steps. First, it was to draft the new members agreement. As Florence had mentioned, currently we're working with the USAID agreement. So we need to draft a new agreement that we will be using and the new members will be using. So that's another task that we ought to take. Yeah. What do we think about this? Florence, do you have any guidance on this?
I mean,
Do
I
you
think
have anything we can adopt?
yeah, we can definitely use you know, we can build on the one that USAID had done. Of course, it'll be very different because that was on the USAID, but and we can definitely help any members who want to work. But I think having that statement about who you are and so on is going to be an important part of that. So I think that that can be done fairly easily. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. We've got the terms of reference. We've got vision and mission. We're happy to work with any of you who is willing to kind of help build that. I think the content is not very complicated.
I can work with you on this, Florence. And
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nilam, for taking that up. So Nilam will be leading and working together with Florence to ensure
Brilliant.
that we have an updated members agreement. Then the other step was, as it is stated on the TOR, is that we will need to have a coordination team, and the criteria for someone to be in part of the coordination team was that you have served in the council for a term of 1 year. So in this scenario, it is the 5 of us to select 3 of us to be a part of the coordination team. So I was trying to think through, what do members think? Do we select the coordination team right now, or do we wait until we have new members in place and then they can partake in, you know, voting in or identifying the coordination team? What do members think about this?
We can do it now and not postpone it, because I believe that we know the work of each one of us, and the new members and don't know that. So I believe that they will have broader criteria to have a coordination team. But now with the ones present today, we have more elements to make that decision. That's my opinion.
Okay. Other members, what do you think? Anyone who is in opposition that we should have the coordination team selected after the new members have come in?
Sorry, just to clarify, Grace, my understanding was what Michael was saying is before the new members come in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's, and Michael, correct me if that's not the case, but my understanding was that recognizing that, you know, the council is still in transition and you are the only members who've served before, that it's up to you, the 5 of you, to make a decision, as Michael said, based on your, you know, the work you've done so far on who the 3 members should be to help coordinate this small 5 members team.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay,
sorry,
so
not
if-
just the 5, but also through this 1 year.
Yeah. And I see from the TOR that the selection criteria is through election. So yeah, if we are in agreement, maybe we can talk about it and set a date, have ongoing conversation on the elections for us to have 3 members from 5 of us to continue serving. Is that in agreement with all of us? I just want us to know if we are okay with that, and then we can set, you know, a timeline for when we do the elections, and then we have new coordination team. Guys, any feedback?
If there's no feedback, you can accept and move forward because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think now of the timeline, or is that something we can pick up on WhatsApp conversation?
Yeah, could the members have, you know, the 5 of you have that discussion and make a decision?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
okay,
pick that up.
okay, sawa, thank you. So we'll follow up on that. Then communication about this new CLC. With
We
this, I
talked
think,
about it. Yeah.
yes, we have talked about that. And then meeting with USAID to report on progress. Lawrence, do you want to talk about this?
So as you can imagine, one of the things that USAID is really keen to hear, you know, what the plan and to hear what decisions you've made, including the fact that you've adopted the terms of reference, what your thinking is. And so they've asked, you know, could we have a meeting with them so that they could hear from you the progress you've made and so on. So I've said I would share this with you, and I do think it would be really important now that you have your own independent terms of reference and you're in the process of determining the recruitment of new members, if we could have a meeting so you could share that with them, because it's part as well of them understanding what they're supporting and what your needs are, etc.
Okay. So do we need to set a date for that?
We can propose some dates in the next 2 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks. We will need to check with USAID their availability and also the interpretation. I checked with them provisionally. They said that the second part of March is better for them, actually. So if that works with you, we can propose some dates once we know from the interpreters, and then see which one works for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think the second part. Yes, Michael.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. The second part of March sounds good. The other item was on development of CLC policies and values and the ways of working, and inclusion, accountability, and respect for the partnership. So for this, mostly it's for us now, with the new council also to kind of develop some of the policies and the values that we have talked about. And we have already tasked some of us some of the items, but maybe to be specific on the item of accountability, if you allow me to just talk about it, Florence had expressed concerns with the former council members in terms of how we had engaged with partners. And I know our time is over, but please allow me some few more minutes so that we're able to kind of finalize in this meeting. So there were concerns on how members were disrespectful to our funders, to be specific, USAID and BCN. And even with the WhatsApp conversation, there was conversation about the council being independent. So we wanted to understand what is really meant, and maybe I'd like us to address this so that maybe Florence can also get clarity on this. Because with the former comments that we got from Andreas, it seems as though the alumni, part of the alumni, and maybe part of us feel as though the council is not fully independent. So what did this mean to us, or what does it mean? Or kindly, anyone who has a better understanding can come in and help us understand what this really means so that we are accountable, and then moving forward, we know how to go about it. And then Florence and even USAID can know what it really means when we say we want to be independent. So yeah.
Can I come in, just Grace to
Anybody?
say, Grace, just to say on
Yeah.
this, I think there's confusion between two different things. One, there was a conversation around, they're related, but around how we operate as partners and speak to each other and respect each other and value each other. But the second thing is the development of the policies is for the council more broadly. And so that's, you know, that's part of the terms of reference, isn't it? We talked about earlier, the fact that the CLC is going to need. So they are related, but I also think they're a bit different. So the development of CLC policies here is more about how this council is going to develop its own ways of working, which we discussed, make sure that it operates in a non-discriminatory way, that it's inclusive, etc., and it's accountable, as you say. But I think that's a broader work.
Sure. So maybe for me, I did pick the aspect of us developing the policies, but I wanted us to bring this concept of accountability and what members have been expressing in the past in terms of the council being fully independent. So that you're able to address it, and then moving forward, we know how to go about it. Anyone who wants to speak about it?
That's very important because the policies regarding on how we should relate among us, among the advisors, the donors, how that relationship should be, is fundamental in order to have to build the image of the council. In the past, from Nairobi, we should have the capacity to have dialogue and communication this way, not to take it personal, because this is like a learning process of something that we already talked about. I think that this is the phase where we are beginning in a formal way with terms of reference, with a group that will be the founders of the council. And from now on, it is very important to respect the opinions, the different opinions, and the work of everyone involved. And whoever violates that will need to be submitted to an ethical committee or commission, and might be in risk of being left out of the council, because that could be risky. We need to take care of the functioning of the council, internal and external, both ways. And before this meeting ends, can I share screen? I would like to show you the structure of the communications strategy so that you can see it before we end this meeting. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Not seeing it's black for me. You I don't know that others are seeing it, but I'm not seeing it.
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
I think it might be taking a bit of time to come on.
Mhm.
Okay, let's try again. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
It says started screen sharing, but we're not seeing anything.
No, it might be choosing a different monitor. Another, like if you have another computer.
Ah,
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. This was an exercise we made in a campaign in order to identify. Just hold on. This is in Spanish, right? Are you still watching my screen?
Yeah, we are. Just Michael, I'm conscious that we're keeping the interpreters. And so just to say that we really need to wrap up this meeting because it's already almost 10 minutes past. We need to respect their times. Sorry about that. But could you share that maybe by email afterwards?
Yeah.
And you can explain, because I think it is very important.
Maybe we can pick it up on WhatsApp and on email. So at this juncture, also, I'd like to call on Florence to finalize the final agenda in terms of logistics. The last slides on logistics as we finalize the call.
Yeah, logistics is simple. So we won't take long time. First of all, is to make sure that you know that we have the shared folder. We created a new shared folder for this council now. I think this is going to work. So this is yours. You've all got access. If you don't, reach out to us. You can edit, you can add, you can upload. This is the where all the documents for this council are kept. So please, when you're, for example, Michael, you could upload those documents or the communication. You could create a folder on communication strategy. This is your space to collaborate, and it has the information.
Can you share that by email, please?
Yes,
because I have
can.
so many files.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can
Florence.
definitely do that. So just put it in the mind. The second thing is right now we've got the groups on the Transforming Children's Care, and we need, like with the WhatsApp, we need to move to this new phase. So it's complicated, but it's not actually complicated, but the proposal is that the group that is currently the Care Leaders Council, which is the former one, that group becomes the alumni group. and then that we create a new group, which is for this council. So right now it's those 5 members plus the new members. So a little bit, it's exactly what you did with WhatsApp, kind of create an alumni group and then this new group to enable this group to, because otherwise it's very complicated. And it's also easier to do it like that than to exclude people. You know, we don't want to exclude the alumni. So that would be our proposal, if you're in agreement to that.
Actually, on the same, today I got my reaching out asking if she's supposed to join on the call because they got the notification.
Right, exactly.
Ignorant, yeah.
That's where it gets confusing. So if you're in agreement with that, we'll create the alumni. So the current group is going to be the alumni group with all the members that were in the past. And then the a new group is going to be set up. We'll send you the link, which will be for this group plus the new members once they're elected.
Sure.
And I think that was it. Just sharing the sharing that Google Drive. So we'll send that by email. And also just we can talk at the next meeting about scheduling meetings. We've already talked about the one with USAID, but I think it'd be good to discuss as well how we schedule this meeting ahead. And we have a kind of rhythm to them because, you know, we need to be able to make sure that the interpreters are available and stuff like that. So it'd be a good idea to organize at least some of the key meetings ahead, for example, the quarterly meetings ahead. But we can talk about that at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Florence. And now that leads me to the next question of when should we have the next meeting so that we're able to, you know, share on what we have and pick on what we haven't exhausted. Any suggestions? Florence, based also on the availability of interpreters, do you have
so do you want this
in mind?
Yeah, do you want, is that going to be before the meeting with USAID or is that going to be, you could do the USAID meeting in 2 parts. You could have a 1 hour where you report, you know, you have the discussion with USAID and then the second hour for following up.
Okay.
And if that work, I would say we're talking about middle of March, I think. But you could have a meeting earlier if you wanted to have another meeting earlier. But you know, I think the important thing for these meetings is that the work continues in between the meetings. So you make the progress, particularly with the recruitment.
Okay, because I think we might need also to pick up the conversation in terms of now sending out the recruitment, the call, and, you know, the whole process in case we need a meeting before the USAID, we can actually pick the conversation on the platform. So guys, allow me to thank all of us for being patient to be 12 minutes past the hour. And thank you all for your contributions on today's agendas. We have been able to kind of give input in most of, you know, what we had in place, and people have taken tasks and we have things to get us started. So my deepest gratitude to all of us. And I don't know, to hand it over to who for the meeting to end. Yeah.
You.
Anybody who has it. Yeah. But we call it, this is the end of the meeting and we pick up conversation on the WhatsApp platform. Thank you and do have a good day and good evening to all of us. Bye. Yes.
Something that is very important is for the reports to have like a draft of the things that we have said in every meeting. So
yes.
Can you help us to take a picture, for example, so that turn on your cameras so that we can have that report.
I don't know if
we can put it in our social networks. The consoles has started working.
We're missing Ruth and Nilam.
Yeah.
It may have to be at the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, though. Yeah.
A great idea.
Okay. Okay then. time. Have
Next time we'll remember for sure.
yeah,
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you for the interpreters.
Thank you.
Joanna, Rosalia, thank you so much for your flexibility.